Uh, Hi, how's it going, everybody? This is Spencer Ostrowski, and Kevin's with me, of course, because we watch all our movies together.
What's good, party people?
We just saw Toy Story 4. We saw it the on release day. We didn't see it yesterday at midnight, but we did see it on release day. So
Kind of forgot the movie came out.
there wasn't a lot of advertising for it.
There was a
No.
lot of advertising, just like, oh, I'm around, like, I work in an
Yeah, you're
environment
more in
where
the loop
there's,
than I am. So
well, just like the environment that I'm around, there's more exposure to that kind of stuff. But as far as like the release date and stuff like that, it really did kind of creep up on us.
yeah, I don't know. It was weird. Like I wasn't really looking forward to the movie, but I knew I was going to see it, if that makes sense.
I feel like everyone that was kind of like the prevailing opinion. It's just like
Because no one knew what to expect because like it's the fourth Toy Story movie and
especially after how everyone thought like, oh, why do we need this fourth Toy Story movie, especially
exactly, yeah.
after the way Toy Story 3 ended. But safe to say, if we get into the one
Yeah,
sentence
go ahead. You can do
reviews,
your one sentence.
safe to say that this movie, it proves its worth, and as far as like being made as a follow up to Toy Story 3, I'll say that it proves that, and I think that and then some.
My one sentence review is Lord, please save my soul. We'll talk about it later. It'll make more sense. So that's my one sentence review. If I was gonna say one thing that may have been my favorite part of the movie, it has nothing to do with the actual like anything in the movie. Like in the movie theater, I could hear kids laughing.
Yeah.
For some reason, that was like I'm gonna start crying already, dude. In the middle of this podcast, I'm gonna do it
Dude, that's because like this is who this movie is for, like, and the whole if
because
we
I
can actually
remember
start,
being a kid too. Yeah.
yeah, we actually start getting into like the meat and potatoes of this movie. That's a lot of what the movie was about too, is about making kids happy, and like that's precisely what we
I remember,
saw in
yeah,
real
that's the
time.
thing. Yeah, I was two when the first Toy Story came out, and I remember like the whole movie, and I just remember how much I loved it. So hearing kids giggle at all the silly jokes, man, that was probably my favorite part of the movie. And like, I'm not even like a huge kid guy, but it just brings you joy because it reminds you of being young and stuff like that, just like having fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
so uh, yeah, unless you have anything else to say about it, I can kind of go into some of the stuff I was thinking about.
Yeah, before you do, I want to say like I think one of the most redeeming qualities of this movie is that it's really funny. It's really funny.
It's
Like
cute.
I think as far like even more so than the previous three. Like I think three Toy Story 3 like leaned into your emotions really heavily. They really wanted to like gut punch you as far as like sentiment and like, this whole idea of, growing up and moving on. And the previous ones were really funny as well, but I think this movie really leans into it, and they do a really good job of it, especially just because of the cast.
Yeah, my favorite part about this movie is how simple the movie is. You're like the plot is so like I think a lot of movies get like too much about like expanding about universes and making the story so convoluted.
Yeah,
Like the story is so simple. It doesn't take you too far, but they delve into it in such a meaningful way. I think that's another one of the great parts about this movie.
that's what I think I can appreciate about. That's what I think I can appreciate about Toy Story as a series of movies overall. Just because each one of them, you're kind of getting a brand new experience. Let like it's not like, oh, how are we gonna what are we how are we gonna recapture, it's almost always a reimagination of what we come to expect from this series, because you have Toy Story 1, that's its own kind of story, and then Toy Story 2 is kind of like a different like premise and different approach. Toy Story 3, obviously, it's we know what that's all about, and then we have Toy Story 4, which you expect, especially just because Toy Story 3 elicited such strong emotions from everybody who watched it. You expect Toy Story 4 to kind of just like try and drive that home, and it didn't until like the last 15-20 minutes, but like this movie stands on its own, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's just it's a self-contained story, and it didn't. What I really appreciate is that it was a Toy Story movie, and it wasn't like what I mean by that is like it wasn't like the toys versus iPads and stuff like that. Like I'm glad it was like just a Toy Story movie, if you can understand what I'm saying. Like they
You
could
mean
have
it
easily
wasn't
gone the
Child's
whole
Play?
modern route. Yeah, well, but
Because
you know what I'm saying,
that's
though.
essentially no, but that's essentially what the new Child's Play movie is.
Right? But yeah, I'm just glad it wasn't about technology. like about kids like
Sure,
not playing with toys anymore. I
sure.
just think I appreciate it. I could have easily gone that route, but they were like, no, man, this is Toy Story. Like, this is a silly universe where like kids play with toys and stuff like that. And kids do still play with toys, obviously, but yeah, I didn't go away from what made Toy Story so great.
So, what was your favorite part? Like, what did you like the most about it?
It said fun. I don't know. It was just like a cute story, man. Like, well, if we're gonna say a little bit about the animation, it's
Dude,
worth
that's
mentioning at the very least. It's
crazy.
mind blowing.
Crazy because I'm literally looking at like pictures from like Toy Story 1, the dog from Toy Story 1. It looks straight out of like a PlayStation 2 game.
And
Like,
not just that, like Pixar, like when that movie came out, it was mind blowing. Like
oh
it was
yeah,
the
and it's
greatest
just
thing.
yeah, and it just shows like it just shows goes to show now cuz that cat in the cat in Toy Story 4 looked like real. A lot of the stuff, especially like the opening scene where it's raining and you have all of this like
Yeah, I mean,
downpour
you
and
have
flood.
the people are animated in Toy Story style, but the surroundings and everything that's not a person is like
It's just it's
extremely
so
real.
detailed and it's
Yeah, once again, Pixar blows every animated movie out of the water.
incredible and just
What they're
incredibly
able to
talented
do.
people.
Oh,
Incredibly talented people working on these kinds of films.
they've never been behind in the animated like part of anything. Like they're always the leading people in that category. It's awesome.
If
It's truly incredible to watch.
if we can be afforded to digress a little bit more from the movie itself, I do kind of want to talk about the state of Pixar overall, because I feel like a lot of people lately like want to be like accusatory of Pixar for leaning into these sequels and like trying to capitalize off the popular franchises that they have and saying that like that's a fault of them, and I honestly couldn't disagree more. Um, as far as like franchising and stuff goes, obviously there's we probably see a little bit too much of franchises and sequels and stuff like that in the overall movie making industry right now. But as far as Pixar is concerned, I think Walt Disney always had this philosophy of that like you make movies so you can make money so you can make more movies. And what I think Pixar has been doing lately is kind of leaning into these franchises that they know are draws and they know that they can make money off of, but at the same time making films that justify their own existence. Incredibles 2 I thought was fantastic. I think Cars 3 was fantastic, especially after Cars 2 being, disappointing. This movie Toy Story 4 I think is definitely, proves its worth, like I said, proves its worthiness to exist. And I think when you have movies like this, because this movie's going to make $1 billion, when these movies that are sequels and franchises are so successful, it allows you to have the creative liberty to go out and take chances, which I think Pixar still does and is still very good at, because I think the success of the sequels I think allowed them to make movies like Inside Out, like Coco, and their next two movies they announced are both going to be original films. So if I can just be on my soapbox for a little bit, I would say don't come at Pixar for giving into the sequel hype, because I think they're using it as an engine for them to create more original stories.
It's easy to tell what the difference between a cash grab is and a good movie.
This
So
movie is very much not a cash grab.
exactly. So if you watch like yeah, it seems like four is a lot of movies for one kind of toy about toys, but if you really do watch the movies individually, they all have so much meaning individually. So
Exactly, and this movie
not
isn't
just
really even about like an aspect of a relationship with a toy. It's more about like just like these characters that we've grown so fond of, because it's been more about like different aspects of the relationships that kids and people have with their toys. But this one is just more about, hey, we've known these characters for such a long time, and
our
it's kind
entire
of like,
lives.
yeah, and it's kind of like trying to at least it seems like sending them off in a way that felt like, oh, it was right, it was time for like it was a story written for the characters above everything else rather than written for toys.
Yeah, and so now I guess we can delve into
The plot a little bit.
yeah.
I loved Forky. Forky was, I thought it was more of a gimmick at first, but I liked the character. I think he provided like a
Helped a lot. Yeah, he was a toy that was like within the toy universe, but he kind of was like a blank slate. Like he wasn't a part of the whole thing, so he was just kind of new into it. I think that was kind of interesting, like the
yeah,
whole
and I
idea
think he
behind that.
kind of lifted up a lot of like what kind of like made this movie seem more relaxed. Um,
Hmm.
because I think this movie had a hump to get over, especially after Toy Story 3, the way it ended, and it was so emotional and so heavy. And that's obviously what a lot of people are going to be thinking about when they first sit down to watch this movie in the theater. And I think having Forky the Forky character immediately come in and be able to lift that and like get people thinking like, oh, this is still Toy Story. It's still fun. It's still a nice like enjoyable kids movie that you can have fun with and laugh with. And I like that, and I think that the Forky character has helped establish a really good precedent for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and he was really funny throughout the entire thing.
It was hilarious, yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of the whole like part of the whole like first, well, the whole three quarters of the movie. It was just like fun. The dolls were scary, but they were scary in a funny way. Like the movie was,
Shit's giving me nightmares. Those shit's gonna give me nightmares,
yeah.
man.
Well, I'm not too scared of dolls, but I could see like obviously how it's creepy, but like they did it in a way that made you laugh in a way, and
Hmm.
Forky was able to kind of recognize that as well, which made it even funnier. So I think it was just it was good. I just liked it. The whole like middle part of the movie I thought was great.
So as for character arcs, as far as character arcs go, obviously this movie is centered around Woody and
Yeah,
his kind
definitely
of
center
journey throughout. And I think they do his character work is absolutely excellent. Just from every Toy Story film has featured incredible character development from Woody. He's by far this franchise's like I don't even know like probably Pixar's deepest and just most nuanced character. Just in that like he's had four movies centered around him, and he's able to been like you see a lot of different kind of like character traits from Woody just in this film alone. And I thought as far as like how much this film was centered around him, I think they did a really good job like capitalizing on all of the work they did on his character leading up to this point, because it hits home at the end, like when it really like when shit starts to hit the fan emotionally, like you are really into it just because you kind of like there's an accumulation of all of these feelings we've had about Woody for the past literally 2 decades.
Yeah, we've seen Woody's been developing as a character for 20 years,
Exactly.
and we've seen like so much happen around Woody. So when things do start to kind of wrap up, you like it hits you. You feel it when everything's like wrapping up.
And as far as Buzz Lightyear goes, like I liked what they did with him too. Ever since the first Toy Story, he's been more of like a secondary character. But even then, like I think the sub arc for Buzz Lightyear in this movie was really good as well, as far as him like the whole idea of him finding his own inner voice, and rather than just listening to what he quite literally is telling himself. But yeah, man, there's just so much to like about this movie. I can't really even nothing really even comes to mind when I try to think about what I didn't like. I think my favorite part of the movie, as far as just like what provided me with the most laughs and what I enjoyed the most, are Ducky and Bunny. Man, the Key and Peele's characters, man, they were absolutely hilarious. I love them so much.
Oh, it was done very well. They were just silly, goofy guys who were unlike all the other characters. Like the toys all have like toy characteristics, but they were just kind of two goofy dudes, and it provided a lot of just really good humor
The
for the
comedic
movie.
timing in this movie is just everything was just done really, really, really well. And obviously, okay, so now we wind down to it, and I think it's time we finally talk about the ending, which I feel like both of us have been trying to avoid because you and I were just sitting in the theater like in a puddle of our own tears, just
Blubbering.
because just this movie, the ending of this movie is so emotional with
It's
Woody.
emotional for so many reasons. Like there's just so many arcs that like end up closing. Like even within the self-contained story that make you cry. Like when the arcs within the movie, not even just the toys that we've grown up for 20 years, just the ones that we were introduced to, when they get wrapped up, you like, oh man, it hits so like you will cry for the last 30 minutes of this movie nonstop.
What I think is like what I think is cool is that the ending of Toy Story 3 represents, I think, in a sense, moving on. You've realized this one thing is over and it's time to move on to a new thing and to a new someone in that sense. But this movie was about like, oh, you need to like let go of that part. Like it was moving on to a greater degree, in my opinion, just because like yeah, you can go from one place to another, but to actually change internally and to make life choices based on that, it's really hard to do, and I liked that message that they sent, and Woody was the perfect character to do it with, and that's why like it hits so hard emotionally, I think.
It hits the most hard just because Pixar is telling you that like this is the end of Toy Story. Like you've grown like well for kids our age, like when
Mm-hmm.
kids younger probably wouldn't understand like the whole they don't get the whole thing, but like the ending is really a send off for the kids who have spent their oh god here I go uh,
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, man.
But
I
yeah, it's like the ending was for people who had grown up their entire lives and be like growing up can
like with
suck,
these
but
characters. Yeah,
yeah, like it's
it's yeah,
saying
it's a hard thing to do. Like
you have
it's
to like, literally let go. Now it's not. Toy Story 3 is about new beginnings. This one, the Toy Story 4 is about like letting go of, and it's like, and you feel it like when they show like the scene where all the toys are like in their last little huddle,
oh
and you like
man,
it
don't.
pans across and you see all of them.
Yeah, man, crazy. It's really like thinking back to it. It still makes both of us emotional right now. Like
Yeah,
it's just
tearing up.
um it really like I don't know even know what to say, man. Like as far as just like I watched this movie a million and a half times as a kid, and I had like I had all these toys, and I felt such a deep connection with these characters, and just I think the way it was wrapped up was just I don't think you'd do a more perfect send off for these characters. You may have thought that Toy Story 3 may have been like the send off for like this kind of overarching story of this whole saga of uh, Andy's toys in a sense. But for the
Yeah,
characters that we grew up with, for the characters for Woody and for Buzz Lightyear and for Ham and Slinky Dog and all those guys, like I think the way they went about this was, I think that was the best possible like salute to those characters. You know?
it all it was all perfect, and this movie just kind of beckons back to like just the idea of imagination. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like especially like growing up, like you lose that part of yourself a lot of the times, and this movie is kind of like makes you remember that like it wasn't always like that. Like as a kid, you could believe anything, and I mean that's what Toy Story has always been about. But I think they did a really job of showing that off in the movie. It just like not everything has to be so freaking serious all the time. Like you don't have to stay within this like a box. You can it's okay to imagine and dream.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of that was like represented in Bo Peep's character as well, because she obviously had spent a lot of that time like holed up on a shelf and kind of like waiting for whether like she could get the old thing back, or she like, and then ended up just kind of taking agency. Um, there were a lot of like, and I loved her role. I didn't think anything felt really forced. I think there was like a lot of like merit behind the actions of her character, especially just because she had been like such a like a tertiary, like a secondary character in the past movies. I liked that they chose her specifically, and that like a lot of the stuff that she did made sense. I loved like, and the additions of the new characters as well were fantastic. Obviously, Key and Peele's Ducky and Bunny, Keanu Reeves' Duke Kaboom was hilarious. One of my favorite parts actually was, I don't know if you know this, but Pixar released a short film in 1988 called Tin Toy.
Mm.
It released with on my specific copy of Toy Story on VHS. This short film was like preluded it, and when Bo Peep takes Woody to go meet Duke Kaboom, and
Mm.
the toy that answers like the door like to the club,
Yeah.
it's the tin toy from that short film. So I was like,
Wow.
so I leaned over to him like, that is like one of the deeper Pixar, like deeper cuts from Pixar as far as Easter eggs go. I'll send the link to you after this so you can watch it. But like it was crazy because it flashed back, like it activated like a long dormant part of my brain that had watched that short film a
Yeah.
million times.
So
So
funny.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
there's something for everybody in this movie. Like
Yeah.
just the old, the new, the Pixar fan, the casual. Just an expertly made movie. It's just a masterclass in animation from Pixar as always, and it shows like, hey, like who cares if it's a fourth Toy Story movie? It's a banger anyway. I don't think the fact that this is the fourth movie that they've made with these characters should take away in any way should take away from the fact that it's It's such a good movie, man.
Yeah, but I did want to say a little bit about Bo actually, because I thought she
Okay.
was like she represented like a really strong female character,
Okay.
and I really hate it when. Okay, so this is what I hated about if we're gonna just like compare it like X-Men, like
Okay.
Jennifer Lawrence was supposed to represent a strong independent woman, but they like shoved it in your face like, look, she's a strong independent woman, you know.
Yeah.
But Bo is like an actual strong independent woman, and like she was her own character. That's what I really liked about that. Like it's not shoved in your face because she's just she's just a strong independent woman. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the movie has to like show you like point a red arrow at it. It's like it's just how it is.
Yeah, I think, there's obviously you always want to see kind of like that representation because those kind of characters exist and those kind of characters are important. And doing them incorrectly kind of just seems like, I don't know, like you need. I feel like people can see through that if you don't take care and you don't go about it in a way that like to makes it seem genuine. And I think that this does make it like this was genuine. I think a lot of people are going to be able to look at Bo Peep in this movie, and I think she'll be able to inspire a bunch of girls who watch this movie and to know that like they don't have to be pigeonholed in any kind of way, and they can have agency over their lives, and anyone can have agency over their lives, you know.
Exactly. So I like that character. I liked her a lot in the movie.
So, if we want to wrap it up, should you see Toy Story 4? I say absolutely see it multiple times. I'm going to go see it multiple times. Go to Disneyland, take a picture with Bo Peep and Buzz Lightyear and Woody. Interact with Toy Story as much as you can. It's absolutely incredible, and it's. I think if this is the send off that we get for Toy Story, it's an absolutely fantastic way to send it off.
Yeah, you were already gonna see it anyways. You know, like
Yeah,
we don't
you
have to
probably
tell
were
you
going to see it anyways.
the
You
other
didn't need
day.
us
But
to
yeah,
tell you.
obviously go see it. It's just, it's not just a knock. It's not just a cheap cash grab. It's a legitimately great story.
This movie
So
was made with passion and heart, and
exactly, which is you don't see that a lot anymore.
if you want to see a movie that was made with no passion and no heart, go watch Men in Black International, or
Yeah,
watch our review about why it stinks.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that'll wrap it up for Toy Story 4. Great movie.
Thank you
Thanks
guys
for
for
listening,
watching as
guys. Yeah,
always. Let us know any kind of movies you want us to review in the
yeah,
future.
we can watch old movies too.
Yeah, absolutely. If we get any recommendations, we will definitely watch old movies. Like and comment as always. Subscribe to the channel if you like this video. Follow our socials just to keep up with us and what we're doing on a day to day. And thanks as always, guys.
Thank you so much.
Peace out.